Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited about today. Today is the 11 of 100 Days of Code with React, and so I'm just going to do something quite simple. So, yesterday we spoke about images, and the day before that, that is the 9, we spoke about dynamic rendering in React, how we can use an array and map every item in that array to render a component. In our case, it was a card component. And I remember I mentioned that that array can consist of anything. It can be objects, can be numbers, can be other arrays. It can basically be anything. Anything you could map. So in this, before we had numbers, but now what we have are 6 objects. If you don't know what an object is, you should just go around for JavaScript objects, and you should see 1 or 2 videos you can watch to understand what objects are. I recommend you watch that before you come and watch this video. Also, if you don't know what this math.random does, it's just all it basically does is create a random number, like a very random number. So let me show you what that will look like. So if I console, let me console.log math.random. So if I console.log math.random, you would realize that it will log a random number between 0 and 1 in the console. So you just create a random number. And the reason why I'm doing this is that although theoretically 2 of this math.random can output the same number, but that will be very rare. It can happen eventually, but for this example, it's safe to say that each and every of these ID is unique, and that will be useful later. So this video is to understand the concept of keys in React. What keys are, what they do, why we need them when we're rendering components, and all of that. So before we do that, I'm just going to render a couple of cards. This stemming from the 9. We still have our card here, a card component, and this H1 is transferred, or whatever is going to be this one is passed down from the app.js, which is this one. So what we can do now here is, as we did in the 9, we can write cards or type cards.random, dot map. And as I mentioned or I explained that day, the .map function, as I mentioned that day, what the .map function does is that it calls, what the .map does is that it calls a function for each and every of the items inside an array. What this means is that for every item of this cards array, it's called a function. So as you can see, there are 6 items, card 1 to card 6. That means it's going to call a function 6 times, each time for each item inside the array. So to do that, sorry, typo. So to do that, what we'll do is that we call a function here, we make it an anonymous function, factor anonymous function, and we can do anything inside here basically. But before we do that, we have to give a name to each item inside. So since this is called cards in plural, we can name it card, say RD in singular. Then we can return. What we can return is that we can return a card. That is a card component as created before. And we can give it a title, which is a predefined, which is a prop that is defined by us. And what this title is now going to be is card. Since card is each individual item inside this cards array, and a card is an object, you can tap into the card.title. So we can do card.title right here. And I'm guessing that what this should do is actually what will happen. What this will do is that it will render a card defined by this component here. It will render that card for each and every time there is an item, each and every item in the cards array. So in this case, there should be 6 cards, card 1 to card 6. So as you can see, there's 6 cards. Let me remove this for now. As you can see, there's 6 cards. If we go back to our code and check our code here, if to show you that it's actually each and every item, we can copy this and let's paste it like 3 times or 4, as many times as we want. And if we go here, you can see that it renders that as many times as we copied and pasted the so within the objects. So as you can see, we didn't need to render a new card component for each and every card we needed in the DOM. All we have to do is change the values of the items in this array, and React did every other thing for us. So back to the main topic of today is talking about keys. I needed to refresh our memory on this to be able to truly understand keys. So if we check our DevTools, I've been using the shortcut for them. Let me just increase my brightness. I've been using the shortcut for DevTools, but how you can access DevTools is by clicking this, and when you click this, you can find more tools. Then you see developer tools or DevTools. Then to open this in the side panel, yours might be down here. It does not really matter. So as you can see here now, they said undefined is not a type, it's not a function, and all of these errors. So let's go back to our code. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to refresh, see what happens. Okay, all those errors I've cleared up because I've solved the issue. So the main error now that is unsolved here is that it's saying each child in a list should have a unique key prop. Check render method of app, see, then it's showing you a link where you can get more information on keys. So what is actually happening is that React cannot identify like individually each and every card here. So yes, there are multiple cards here, but React cannot tell one card from another. So you have to give it that key prop to be able to tell which card is which, to be able to differentiate the cards. So as I mentioned, to us it's obvious that one is card 1, card 2, card 3, card 4, up to card 6. But to React, each and every card here are identical, meaning that if you want to change the data inside, React might get confused, might run into problems when React cannot differentiate one card from another. So in order to be able to differentiate one card from another, we have to essentially give each card an ID, like an identification number, for React to be able to tell, okay, this card is this one, this card is called Ade, this card is Emeka, this card is Daniel, and the rest. So to do that, that's what it's telling you, that you should have a unique key prop. So we can easily fix this problem. All we can do is inside this card, we can give it a new property called key, and this key is going to be equals to card dot id. If you guessed it, you guessed right. So since we've done that, what we've essentially done is that since this math.random returns a number that most likely will be unique because of there are only 6 here. If there are like millions, you might have 2 of those numbers that are exactly the same. But in this case, it's very rare. It should not happen. So we have 6, and since this math.random theoretically cannot give you the same number, it can be used as a unique ID. Then this ID property, or this ID property of the object, basically can be used as a key to identify each and every card rendered in the DOM. So if we check our DevTools and we refresh, that error is gone. This error should be ignored for now. It will not disturb what we're doing, but the error is gone. You can notice that we don't have that error. If we remove the key prop, we notice that the error is back. So that's what is going on, and that is how to easily fix that issue. So the concept of keys is not too difficult to understand. You should just know that when you talk about keys, you're just talking about unique identifiers for components in the DOM. That's been it. Thank you. See you tomorrow.